What's up, guys? It's Drac and Jinx. Jinx is actually here specifically for scale. Jinx is und tiny dog. This is und tiny blaster. Literally that big. Very small. Let's get into it. So coming to us all the way from Das Weissland, this is the PewPew by PewTech, and it's hard to adequately express just how small this blaster is. So let's find some reference images. So just to be clear, here's a full Talon mag. Here's the PewPew. The PewPew is shorter than the Talon mag by like 6 darts. It's nuts. It's nuts how tiny it is. It's also about the thickness of a Talon mag, and the grip is smaller than a Talon mag. It's badonkers how small this is. But if that's not a good enough reference for all of you, here's a United States dollar, roughly 6 inches in length. And if you look, it is just barely shorter than the PewPew. In fact, the only part that actually sticks out is the PewPew's sort of muzzle / flywheel cage. This thing is a fully computer controlled brushless machine pistol. I know, and it's that small. Which just tells you that chip shortage be darned, this is how tiny you can get all the controlling components for a pistol this size. It used to be a pistol that did these things this well would have been twice the overall size profile of this. This isn't just holsterable. This is the kind of thing you could slap on a chest rig comfortably because it weighs effectively nothing. I've got a full-size battery in here, which admittedly is an 853S battery necessary to power all of the components and the very thirsty brushless motors, but it appears there is a fully custom kind of cage thing around here. I'm not sure if this is even printed. I think it's got to be some sort of injection molded piece to cover the custom motors, and then the custom flywheels, and then there's a pusher system, and then there's 2 control speed. There's just a lot going on. So to power this blaster on once the battery is in, and again, I want to cover it tip to tail. So if you look here, you can see it has a very comfortable grip. There's actually an area where you could put your thumb. You could very easily grip it like so. There's finger knurling on here. Of course, I asked for mine in Vertigo Gray. Tough to beat with a little bit of a Vertigo Cherry accenting, because everything's better in Vertigo Gray. If you come down here, you've got a compliant mechanism here, tiny spring, and you can see that is our battery compartment. My battery is very small. It also uses an XT30 connector. Why? Because an XT60 connector would not comfortably fit in a grip this size. Now the trigger itself is remarkably comfortable. It actuates like this, and then the magazine release is equally fascinating. If you guys take a look here, it's about as omni as a mag release could be. So that's to say that you can release the magazine by pulling down like this. You can also push down like this. It's pretty quirky, pretty cool. You could flick down like this, or you can pull back like this. You can even push down, but that's a little funkier. And the mag release is pretty comfortable. You need a little bit of additional force just because mine hasn't been fully broken in yet, but overall quite comfortable, quite nice. Let's go ahead and slap this back on. You can see in here, again, just a tiny spring actuated door. You really have to work those wires in because everything is space efficient in this blaster. And then once you get it in, clicks into place and you're good to go. So that is the PewPew back. Now, it's got a USB-C for, I assume, programming it. And above that is a tiny, almost invisible when it's off, LED indicator. That LED indicator tells you everything that you need to know that isn't controlled by the screen so that you know what fire mode you're in, whether it's single burst or auto fire. And then you control all of that using this, I kid you not, joystick D-pad to control the menu, which displays in real time up here. There's also ways to lock that out so that you could have tournament settings or what have you. And then there's 2 heat set inserts up here if you wanted to attach it to some sort of magnetic holster. I do not. I want to use mine full pistol as a primary gunslinger mode. So to turn the blaster on, you have to know the secret passcode, which is to say that there's like a 1-second delay in a Zelda song, and then it goes da-da-da-da. Woo! And it kind of comes up with that logo, and it gives you this full menu here, which is going to be difficult to read, but it's got all of your modes from speed to select to burst to number to everything that you could possibly want. I'm going to go ahead and leave mine on single fire mode right now. I'm going to have the speed at maximum. So a single trigger pull both revs the flywheels and delivers the darts. Let's go ahead and throw that in so that you can see how that works. Pretty spicy, pretty cool. Let me go ahead and come into the menu here. And I'll just turn this down so that you can see that if you wanted to play like a closer to stock class war, that's 30%, same mode, hop out of the menu and almost gentle in its delivery. Now let's bring the speed back up. Again, you can lock out this menu if you're worried that you're gonna be hitting the dial. And let's put it in burst mode, which is where I would want this to be most of the time. It looks like I have enough for 2 bursts in here, exactly 6 darts. You can change it. You can do 5-round burst, you can do 2-round burst, or echo trigger mode, I suppose. I'm gonna put it in burst mode. And in that burst mode, I'm specifically gonna leave it at 3 because I like 3-round burst. I'm a battle rifle guy after all. And let's just see how our machine pistol takes that. Pretty cool. So aside from, you know, having to pick up an XT30 charger, I think that this thing is awesome. But I haven't shown you full auto. I haven't shown you how quickly you can just chew through some magazines. Let's take it outside. Let's put it over the chronograph. All right, guys, so we're out here with the PewPew, and I do want to acknowledge my PewPew is pretty dark. The fact that it fits into my, you know, Hot Topic jacket like this is maybe not ideal. It would be great for like HVZ, like, oh my goodness, back in the day, the ability for zombies to be like, gotcha, Drac, and be like, well, you know, maybe nobody's nerfed. They would have gotten me by now. Anyway, and then you whip it out and then these days the police have something to say about it. Anyway, all politics aside, I should have chosen a brighter color scheme for my PewPew, but I have a serial number in mind that I'd like to lock in, and so I might be getting a second one. Because the only thing better than one thing with this much power is gonna be 2 of them. I think that would be pretty tight. So I intend to run mine exclusively with my scabbard rigs. I still have a few of these on Foam Pro Shop, but they are running out fast. This is the Scabbard 2.0. It's a Cryptek with an orange thread on there, and it's twice the size of the PewPew. So I think that if you're going for a really lightweight loadout with like no necessary like belt or chest rig, this would be how I'd run it for a while. I think that this thing is awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and load it up. We're gonna do some chronograph data using Dart Zone Max darts. I've been using these interchangeably with AF Pros, and the numbers tend to be pretty similar. I've got us in single fire mode with speed at 100, and I want to get some data that way. 147, duplicate 147, 150, 151, 148, 51, 50. And then for the sake of, I guess, science here, I want to drop it down, and I'm going to switch our speed to, let's say, 70. I feel like 70 is right around where End War would want to be. I don't know that, but let's see what that does. And sure enough, that's all mid 120s. That's about perfect. So with that said, I'm gonna leave the rate of fire. I'll take the speed back up to like 85, which seems fine. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put us in burst mode. We're gonna do a magazine with bursts of 3. Once again, dip into the scabbard here. And we should be in burst mode. Let's put a few over. And 85 still giving me 147. 148. The recoil in this thing every time you burst fire just feels good. It almost, and I hate to like reduce it to this, it feels like an old PlayStation 4 controller when you're using burst fire in Destiny. Like, brr. That's the only thing that's comparable to it. And it's so small that you kind of get that vibration, but brum, brum, brum. Ah, it's so cool. Again, you can very easily John Wick flip those, come back into the scabbard. Let's do one more series of burst fires just downrange. I'm gonna take the speed back up. And again, this thing is very featureful. The manual on Discord is easy to understand if you actually read it, which took me a second. We all know how Drac feels about manuals. But self-burn aside, once you have a hand for it, you really don't have to worry about interfacing with this. You can lock this pretty easily if you want to, but I'm gonna go ahead and put some bursts downrange and just see. Again, this target is slightly small and it's about 65 away, but I wanna see how this would do in like an FPT type setting. So there's, I think some familiarity might be in order, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in here. And then we're gonna come over and we are going to take this all the way because I want you guys to get a good idea of how full auto feels. Now the full auto doesn't just cycle constantly, I think in an effort to prevent these from burning out. They don't want that to happen. There's a lot of passive cooling in the system. You can see I'm already building up a slight amount of dart gunk on my muzzle device here, and it's all very exposed. You would never want to like run into the ground with this thing. I don't want to say that it's delicate because it's clearly built tough, but like a lot of the pins are just set in with friction. Like you would never want to bump this against something hard like cement. I mean, overall, the design is very much, it's not designed to be babied or coddled, but you should take care of it, which makes sense because the one thing that I haven't told you just yet is that this thing is, I want to say 400 and something Swiss francs. Now, a Swiss franc is roughly comparable to United States dollar, so depending upon your exchange rate and by the time you pay shipping, you're looking at just sub 500 bones for this guy, which means you are buying easily the most premium pistol on the market right now. And I think, while personally, for my use case as somebody who nerfs all the time and wants a really cool lightweight loadout, particularly something that's as exclusive as this is right now, mine is serial number 9 after all, I think that there's a market for that, certainly. I've sold way more arcanes than that, and that's people who just want, you know, absolute durability, tuning, and quality. This is, you're paying half for the technology inside, which with the current supply chain issues is only going to get more expensive. However, I've teased you long enough. Let's full auto. Well, you know, in full auto, you get 2 bursts, and we hit the target both times. So let's swap out. That's 1 empty for 1 full. Back in the saddle, and I think it'd be tough to dodge that too. Even at 150 FPS in full auto, that is super duper sweet. To turn the blaster off and power it down, you come in like this. You just hold this up. It gives you a little waiting thing, and it says turning off. And then it's done. Again, it's got kind of a safety lockout mechanism. If you let the whole song play, the blaster stays off, and it doesn't do anything. So you have to kind of get a feel for it, the timing down right. I think that it's awesome. I'm very, very pleased to have a single-digit serial number. I know that a couple of the guys up in New York have one. I know that a lot of them are still landlocked over in the EU. I am so desperate to start traveling for Nerf again, and I feel like if there's any sort of burgeoning Swiss scene, as somebody who has a lot of love for like Switzerland, I would love to return. I haven't been to Gruyère's in forever, and I'm thrilled to see such innovative stuff coming out of Switzerland, out of Germany, out of the entire UK type area. I think that it's really, really cool. I had never heard of this maker prior to this project, and for this to be their first project, so polished, so professional, so tight in its overall design, is really, really cool. There's a world where you could add optics to the top. I like the very smooth vertigo gray finish on mine. There's a world where you could plug in the USB-C and recode it and program it yourself. I'm very happy with the stock configurations personally. Overall, couldn't be happier. Can't wait to get it out to the SCNC. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out PewPew on Instagram and in the description box down below. Check out the Scabbard rig on Foam Pro Shop. Pick up your Talon magazines over at Foam Blast Shop or outofdarts.com. And as always, guys, much love. Blast on, Drac out. Pew pew.